Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
I'd ask how you're doing, but I know that it's spoiler season, and this is, your favorite season 4 times a year.
Yeah, and the new set coming up. Already, we're getting hit with a whole bunch of different stuff that kind of points to some pretty interesting interactions.
Oh yeah. And, not too much of a spoiler for us, but we're going to have an extra episode this week because we've got our own Hour of Devastation preview card, which is coming out on Friday.
Yes. And, big apologies to everybody for our episode last week got kind of garbled in the, I blame it on the hackers. But the...
Brian Hacker? Azul?
Actually saw Brian Hacker last weekend at the Grand Prix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, only for ships passing in the night. I was doing commentary and he waved, and he was off playing in his event and whatnot, and then he went back over to the World Series. But yeah, there were all sorts of people from all over, man.
Yeah, that's
you know who else was there?
Who?
John Schuler.
I knew that.
The first Magic tournament that John Schuler has attended in many years. He was one of the 5 original Magic writers, basically. I mean, he's old school.
I think the last one he attended was Grand Prix New Jersey 2006, which is the week before Clark was born, I think. Because I saw him there, so that's how I knew.
Yep. Yeah, all sorts of people from all over, It was definitely just a great time, great look, and obviously Channel Fireball does dope events, and doing the 3 different Grand Prix staggered 1, 2, and then 3 was a much better way to do it than having all the Grand Prix on top of each other, where you just never see somebody that's on the other side of the room. Because, your event is on this side of the room, their event is on that side of the room, never the two shall meet. Compared to the previous Vegas 2 years ago.
Yep.
So I was a really, really big fan, and obviously had a blast doing commentary with, getting a chance to be in the booth. I mean, obviously always a pleasure with BDM. That's the first time I've actually been in the booth with Luis, and then obviously Huey and Marshall, Gabby, always do dope, always do a great job. So I had a lot of fun and got to kick with lots of people throughout the weekend. And obviously it's Vegas, and Vegas is always fun. But now previews are upon us.
There are so many. Can we start with a cycle? I mean, this was just a cycling set, but can we start with a cycle? These cards are, whew. I'm going to start with one, and then I think it's pretty bonkers, and then we can just go from there because there's more where that came from. I'm going to nominate Jace's Defeat. It's like the defeat of you, my friend.
No.
The defeat, it's 1 in a U for an instant. Counter target blue spell. So it's already Andrew Cuneo, but wait, there's more. If it was a Jace Planeswalker spell, Scry 2. So the percentage of the time this card is countering a Jace Planeswalker spell is going to be 1% or something, but
lower.
Yeah, lower than 1%, but it's already just full-on Gainsay, and sometimes it has Scry too.
Yeah, Gainsay, maybe 1%, but Gainsay has been around multiple times and is always a hit.
Always staple every time. Andrew Cuneo named himself after it.
And, that's partly because when he was in the Mitgo beta, you had to be a card.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's where he got the name, is that he got to be Gainsay because he was Gainsay in the beta when, that's just the name that, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's been Gainsay since before. He was Gainsay when Gainsay was first Gainsay. But
there's been at least 3 Gainsays, right?
Jace's Defeat, definitely going to, I think, see play in a variety of formats. Gainsay has seen play in basically every format. It doesn't see that much play in powered formats these days, But, if one were to get to a spot where they would want Gainsay again, Jace's Defeat is a strictly better Gainsay.
I think this card is going to see a lot of sideboard play. Like, a lot in Standard. Obviously for Modern and Legacy, they already had Gainsays. I think it's marginally... Actually, it's way better in Legacy, right? It's marginally better in
it's going to counter Jace a lot more than 1% of the time in Legacy.
Yeah, everybody's got Mind Sculptors. And by everybody, I mean Andy Boswell had one. But... the finals was between... Actually, the finals of the Grand Prix was between two Jace the Mind Sculptor decks. There you go. Yeah, so I think 1% is going to be below its actual bar
in Legacy. In Legacy, maybe.
Yeah.
Modern, Jace Beleren and Jace Architect of Thought, medium.
There's no Mind Sculpting in Modern.
Yeah, but also Gainsay is not at its best in Modern right now either. But you never know. Things can change. Standard, however... Oh, one thing that is kind of nice about Jace's Defeat, just in general, it was true about Gainsay before as well, but being able to counter either a Snapcaster Mage or a Negate, that's like with no good 2-mana counterspell, with no truly great 2-mana counterspell in Modern, there is a little bit of opportunity for 2-cost counterspells of all sorts. Gainsay still does show up some, and Jace's Defeat, I think, is it's not so much stronger of an effect that the tiny percentage of the time you actually hit a Jace Beleren or whatever, that I don't think that's going to change the needle very much. It's mostly just Gainsay.
Mm-hmm.
But in Standard, I think it's not going to hit Jace very often either. But this is a really good time for Gainsay in some matchups because of the ability to hit Torrential Gearhulk or Negate.
Yeah,
Glimmer,
this card is awesome, right? Like, just in terms of how you would structure your, certain sideboard slots, right? There's folks that have, some number of negates main deck. Oftentimes, those people are going to round up to 4 negates after sideboarding. Oftentimes, you're going to have somebody who goes to 4 negates after sideboarding, where all 4 negates are in the sideboard. Those kind of players are often going to be competing with Essence Scatters and also Dispels, and sometimes 3-mana counterspells. But typically, they're really thinking about blue spells when they're factoring in some of these cards. Like, anybody who's got a mix of Dispels and negates in their sideboard is aiming for blue opponents, right? Like, that's how.
Well, Dispel is for sure. Negate, I think, just has enough utility against Planeswalkers.
Oh, yeah, and not Marvel's now, but like Marvel's 15 minutes ago. But I'm just saying that anybody who has a mix of those two cards, right? Like, that's a signal for something. And I think the Jace's Defeat helps you to compress some of your sideboard slots effectively.
Yep, absolutely. It's very slot efficient, And it's not even just about being able to hit blue, things we think of as classically blue effects like Torrential Gearhulk and other people's permission. Hitting gold cards like Rogue Refiner and Whirler Virtuoso just does so much of the work that you wanted out of Essence Scatter some of the time anyway. And it gives you a lot of flexibility for how to tweak and how to adjust your deck. It's nice being able to hit Spell Queller.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
And obviously, the fact that it gets a little bonus from hitting Jace, that's all well and good, but it can hit other blue planeswalkers. Obviously Saheeli's gone, but like even if they were to play Dovin Ban, you can still counter it. Just like every other blue spell. But Jace's Defeat, well, I think it's a for sure winner, just because it's Gainsay again. It's not even at the top of my defeat list.
The reason I wanted to start with it was just it's obviously going to be a staple, even if it's a sideboard staple. And I thought that it would be a fun way to just ease into the cycle, because I think a lot of these cards in the cycle are going to be very, very good. I'm not sure, maybe all 5, but they're looking real promising. Where do you want to go next? White, perhaps?
Sure.
So
Gideon's Defeat.
Gideon's Defeat is a special card, right? So this card is just white for an instant. Exile target white creature that's attacking or blocking. If it was a Gideon Planeswalker, you gain 5 life. Okay. Wow. This is an interesting card. First of all, it's just good against Tom Ross, right? Or people like Tom Ross, like maybe, I don't know, Craig Wesco. It's just good against those guys. Super efficient condemn type card that you can play against fast white decks, for example. But it's also got additional text against, I don't know, I'm just going to say Archangel Avacyn, which could be indestructible sometimes, etc. But the Planeswalker condition of exiling and attacking Gideon Planeswalker and gaining 5 life, I actually think that it super matters on this card. It's kind of the opposite of Jace's Defeat, right? Where we'll get this like 1% of the time. How insane is it for just to print a card to kill Gideons, which is such a problem for people?
Well, I don't know. So I think this card is good, but it's important to remember that it doesn't just kill Gideons. It only kills Gideons that attack. If Gideon's making a 2/2 every turn, this card does nothing. If Gideon is locking something down, like Gideon of the Trials is wont to do, this card does nothing. So, I do think that it helps that that Gideon's Defeat can hit Gideon, but it would also be able to hit Gideon if it was just exile target white creature that's attacking or blocking.
That's a great point.
It's not like Gideon. I mean, Condemn hits Gideon when it attacks, and it's not like Gideon ever blocks anyway.
He can't really do that, right? That's not a
right.
You need to have some kind of card combo acrobatics to do that.
The possibility of hitting a Gideon itself, that's just giving you 5 extra life.
I think it's still sexy.
That's 5 life's nice, sure. But it's I just don't think that it's the biggest deal in the world. Mostly this card is a more limited Dark Betrayal. But it has the exile clause, which can be helpful. The exile clause doesn't actually interact with all that many white creatures at the moment. However, some notable exceptions. It exiles your True Heart guy, the 2/2 vigilance.
Oh, the duelist? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like the 2-mana Call the Herd type guy. It prevents him from embalming.
Yep. And then it also hits the Angel with Embalm, the exile something. But importantly, it hits any creature that embalms. Because when a creature comes back embalmed, it's now white. So even if it's like the Honored Hydra, when Honored Hydra in a blue-green deck gets embalmed, they have a 6/6 Mummy Hydra, you know?
Do you think that's going to be a common strategic thing to do, to like side in this card against opponents who have embalmed creatures? Just it
will in draft. It will in draft, but depending on what way the format goes, that might be a relevant interaction for the possibility of main decking a Gideon's Defeat. You know, at the moment, the format doesn't look like that's what's popping at all. But over the course of the next 2 years, a lot could change.
I'm just thinking, I think that I've lost to attacking Gideons more than any other kind of thing that I've lost maybe in the last year in Standard. So I'm still banking on gaining 5 life.
Well, and that's fine. And this card does help. It's the part of the thing that makes me kind of optimistic about Gideon's Defeat to some degree is that it's a one-cost removal spell that's actually good in white. White has really been starved for good removal at 2, let alone 1. The possibility, like one of the big problems with blue-white control decks, for instance, is how much you don't get to make one-mana plays the same way that Fatal Push and Magma Spray let other color combinations make. And even for 2, you can't be proactive the same way the Harness Lightning and Grasp of Darkness are in terms of removal. You know, like often you have to wait with stuff like Blessed Alliance or Immolating Glare. While Gideon's Defeat does require you to wait, it actually lines up perfect, because normally when you would wait on turn 2 with your 2-cost removal spell, they haven't even attacked you yet, and then you end up having to do the 2-cost removal spell on turn 3, and you just start falling behind in tempo. Gideon's Defeat not only lets you spend that turn 3 exiling something and still hold up a counterspell, but also you can Gideon's Defeat things like Toolcraft Exemplar, and just be like stopping their literal best play right from the gate. And so I think that's interesting.
I think that's awesome. You know, just the ability to Fatal Push a Toolcraft Exemplar was such a percentage swing when you're playing against Mardu. Like, so this is just applying it to white.
And the fact that it can hit Toolcraft Exemplar or Gideon out of their deck, you know, that's kind of attractive. And it's not like that's it. You know, like it actually also impacts potentially your decisions about Veteran Motorist, you know, whether you play Thalia, whether you play, you know, and it's not like you want to hit a Gideon token or a Thraben Inspector, but if it comes to that.
I've had to shock many a Thraben Inspector in my life, and it never feels good. It's just...
The other part of Gideon's Defeat is that it's helpful against the super 1-drop human decks. You know, like when they're just playing like 12, like if they're playing all these different 1-drops that have 2 power, and Thalia's Lieutenant and whatnot, Gideon's Defeat is some much needed tempo. And it also goes after stuff like Needle Spire and Shambling Event, which is important.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a big game.
Right.
Those are 2 of the most popular creature lands.
Right, and it's nice getting that extra versatility, you know?
I like it.
So it's also worth noting that because it exiles, it's a great answer to not only Archangel Avacyn, but in that if you Gideon's Defeat something, an Archangel Avacyn in their hand can't save it or flip because of it, you know?
That's a cool little wrinkle there.
And then finally, it does interact with Eternalize, and Eternalize is like sort of the new Megamorph version of Embalm.
Mm-hmm.
The difference being instead of getting a version that was just like the old one, except it's a white zombie, now you get a copy that's just like the old version, except it's a black zombie, and it's always a 4/4. And the black zombie part means that Gideon's Defeat can't get it when it actually gets eternalized back.
But you can.
However, exactly. So, for instance, Adorned Pouncer, one of the most exciting eternalized cards shown, is 1 and a white for a 1/1 double strike with eternalized 3 white. So you can get for 5 mana, you get an uncounterable 4/4 double strike black zombie cat. And having... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree. I think this card is, just on paper, is bonkers, right? I don't know if it's going to be great in actual context. But for some context, in the past, Adorned Pouncer, unless you care about being a human versus a cat, this card is just better than Fencing Ace. And Fencing Ace, it's like a Pro Tour top 8 quality card, right? And constructed. I mean, obviously, it was always played in decks that had pump spells and or like a ton of enchantments, right? It was like it played in the what's the name of the Bant Hexproof deck? Was the most common place to see a fencing ace, or actually the Jeskai version actually also. But Adorned Pouncer is just fencing ace that can sometimes swing for 8, right? He's like a silver heart on the back end.
Yeah, I think this card is going to be a hit. I think this card is going to do a lot of things. First of all, for reasons that will become clear later, I think it's got some good creature type action going on. But second, I think that Adorned Pouncer is just great on its own right because of the double strike thing. I mean, fencing ace, you are exactly right, already a quality card. But I think that a 4/4 double striker for 5 is also a very respectable second half without even having to pay an extra card.
What if that was just the card, right? Like 4/4 double strike for 5, because you start with there. You'd look at it, right? I don't know. I think it seems like
I mean, I don't think you can get into a 4/4 double strike. I think a 4/4 double strike. It's like remember that 3/3 double strike prowess?
No.
That one wasn't. Okay,
I don't even remember it. So it's it like Dragon Twins or something?
Right. Well, see, you do remember it.
Yeah. Okay. Dragon Twins, sure. Everyone was trying to make a combo deck with that and become immense, right? That was the shtick.
Yeah, but and don't get me wrong, the 4 toughness up front, that's something, but I don't. Well, a 4/4 double striker for 5, I don't think would be good enough for high level constructed. It would be a bomb in limited already, and it would be like close. It'd be like the type of thing where if it had the right tribal support, you would play it in constructed.
But a free 4/4 double strike for 5 is a different story altogether.
Oh yeah,
especially this reinforces certain type of play patterns, right? Like a lot of the time, if you're playing the slower deck or you're playing a deck that has the interaction and your opponent's playing just a straightforward beatdown deck, your early turns are just going to be like remove to maintain life total, start building advantages so that you can go into the mid game. You actually have to think about if you're going to knock out their grizzly bears here, right? Because it's basically a 2-1 if nothing else is going on. But all other things are equal. You're going to because they might have pump spells.
On defense, you're still a first striker. So if your opponent has like a bunch of 2-1s, like for instance the zombies, you can hold off the 2-1s very easily.
Yeah, all I'm saying is if you've got a spare harness lightning or shock, right? All other things held equal, kind of typical play pattern is going to be like take out their grizzly bear, but you might not do that here, right? Because you might not want to give them the free upgrade while discarding a card.
Yeah, I mean it's free in that you still have to pay the mana, but you definitely are. It's free in terms of the card. And I think early on you're probably still going to just be killing the Pouncer, but later in the game, there's going to be a lot of spots where you just can't. This is another piece of evidence, by the way, of the greatness of Magma Spray.
Oh, yeah. Magma Spray will be doing work once again on this one. But, again, that's basically next to Gideon, ally of Zendikar, I think that Adorned Pouncer is going to be one of the main reasons to be thankful for Gideon's defeat. What defeat would you like to move on to next?
Dealer's choice. I mean, we haven't even got to the good ones yet.
Really? Wow, I think those first two are so good. All right, let's just go down in order. How about Liliana's defeat? Liliana's defeat, B for a sorcery. Destroy target black creature or black planeswalker. If that permanent was a Liliana planeswalker, her controller loses 3 life. So what was the name of the card that was just B to destroy a black creature?
Dark Betrayal.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. Dark Betrayal was whiz bang at least a 3 of, if not 4 of, in like the black beatdown and black like aggro devotion decks a few years ago, right? Like every time you'd have that card in your sideboard for the mirror match. And it didn't even kill planeswalkers.
Yeah, so Liliana's defeat is a sorcery, not an instant. But in exchange for slowing down and being a sorcery, you literally get to hit Liliana the Last Hope, Liliana Death's Majesty, Ob Nixilis Reignited, Sorin Grim Nemesis. In Legacy, you can hit, or Modern, you can hit Liliana of the Veil, which is very relevant because people who play Liliana the Veil frequently have Dark Confidant, Grim Flare. Being able to hit, to have a card in your deck that can answer, in Legacy, it even hits Deathrite Shaman. The fact that you can hit a Deathrite Shaman, a Dark Confidant, and Liliana of the Veil all with the same card and for only 1 mana in a format that places such a premium on mana efficiency. And it also hits Gurmag Angler and Tassiger the Golden Fang.
Yeah, I mean, and Death Shadow.
Tombstalker and Death Shadow. Absolutely. This card is going to be great in Eternal formats.
So there was a Mardu deck that placed, I believe, top 16 in the Modern event back in Vegas this past weekend. I was just like, this is the first time I ever took a second look at a Mardu burn deck because he had bump in the night. But this is just, I think, the ability to hit various 3-mana Lilianas and Death Shadow and a ton of those other, Tassiger and Gurmag Angler are annoying to deal with. They've got a lot of toughness, So, and also they're inconvenient casting costs, right? You could do stuff like Spell Snare Tarmogoyf if you're in the right colors, right? Those guys can't Fatal Push them very easily, or at all. So I think Liliana's defeat, it's going to be great in Standard, and it's going to be maybe better in Modern.
I think that it's so good of a Snapcaster Mage target, too.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. It's so mana efficient.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've played Dreadbore in Grixis. To be able to do this for just 1 mana in spots, I mean, hell, I've played Dark Betrayal in Grixis. Just having it as a sideboard option, it's so what you want some of the time.
There's just really interesting stuff you can do, right? Opponent makes you discard, and then you discard this, and then at the end of their turn, because with Liliana, and then end of your turn, you can you can Snapcaster Mage it back. Not end of your turn, but you could just Snapcaster Mage it back, or you could take a 4th turn, which is kill your Siege Rhino, Snapcaster Mage, kill your Liliana, something like that, or kill your Grim Flare and your Siege Rhino. It's just all in 1 turn. It's just, this seems like an outstanding card to me. I don't know what else to say. It's also straightforward, right? This isn't a real nuanced one. It's just
it is interesting, though. There's going to be some real play to using these because, for instance, when you have Liliana's defeat and say a murder in your hand, and your opponent plays a black creature, do you use Liliana's defeat or do you use murder on it? If you use Liliana's defeat, then you're never going to get the 3 life loss, nor will you even have protection if your opponent drops a Planeswalker. However, if you use murder, now you're vulnerable if they play a Tireless Tracker or a Verdurous Gearhulk or something.
Yeah, I think it's just going to depend, right? What colors do you see? How much mana do you have open? Is it the end of their turn? Is your main phase?
Oh, all I mean is that there's a lot of play to it. I think it bodes well for Standard. Adding a little bit of depth on a different axis,
Yeah, I think this card is. I'm glad you mentioned Sorin, right? These cards that we're talking about are all good against gold cards. This one in particular because it only costs 1 mana. The ability to exchange 1 mana for 6 mana is just crazy.
Well, this is also I think, a paradigm-changing card because think about how many decks over the last couple formats all do the same thing. It's always these black decks, whether it's Mardu, Zombies, Green, Black, they all do the same thing. They all sideboard in Planeswalkers and get a little bigger. When a black-green deck with Winding Constrictor and Glint Sleeve Siphoner goes to sideboard in Ob Nixilis, Liliana's defeat changes the way that whole battle would play out. What options even make sense? They no longer get to dodge your removal by sideboarding in a Planeswalker the same way. And in a Mardu deck, the Mardu deck with Soaring Grim Nemesis doesn't have likely as many targets outright. But when the Mardu deck gets to play with Liliana's defeat against other decks like zombie decks that would be boarding in Liliana's of their own, they now have a versatile 1-mana answer that can actually hit either plan. So, also if Kalidas, now that Marvel's gone, lots of things might change. And even if you just want to kill Kalidas, Trader of Get, that's pretty good for 1 mana.
Oh, I agree. I think that we're likely to see a move towards the mid-range because of the banning, I guess, of Marvel. And I was like, well, would you add black to your blue-red deck for a card like this? And I think maybe, but you also might say, what if I played black-red instead of blue-red, right? Like, this is a card that can work well with Goblin Dark Dwellers. You might like the fact that there's not a "Oops, I win" card in Standard anymore might make it a kind of an attrition-based removal or card advantage type deck like that viable.
I also just think that Liliana's defeat has a rider that actually matters. The 3 life from this is definitely not trivial. Like, I think the matchups where you, for instance, it's going to be very rare that you actually get to Scry from Jace's defeat. And I don't think that the Scry 2 is going to be as impactful in those kinds of spots as the 3 life will be from Liliana's defeat. It's so easy for people to overlook just how big of an impact Blightning has compared to Mind Rot. You don't have to remind me about Blightning, Patrick. And it really, really adds up. If somebody just tries to play a Liliana deck, the possibility of getting hit by multiple Liliana's defeats is just so devastating.
Oh, wow. That's just going to add up a ton of damage, yeah.
Yeah. And you start wondering things like, your Gurmag Angler Tasigur deck, maybe you just can't play Liliana's because your opponent might have Liliana's defeat anyway. And if they ever, if they're in Modern, if the burn deck gets to kill your Liliana and also dome you for 3, that's a real bad look.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. That is like, so that Mardu deck from Vegas, you just basically splash black for bump in the night so we could have twice as many lava spikes. But this is just like a lava spike that kills Liliana then. That's, wow. That's really good. And being able to hit Gurmag Angler or Tasigur or any of that stuff, that's not nothing. You don't want to go too overboard with that kind of stuff. But I think Liliana's defeat, it's worth a look. I also just keep coming back to Deathray Shaman, man. Which, by the way, also speaking of powered formats, Kitchen Finks was one we glossed over on Gideon's defeat. I don't think it'll come up all that often, but it is annoying having to deal with a Kitchen Fink in some decks. Yeah. And
being able to exile it for just 1 mana is kind of a nice little bonus. So, in addition to Liliana's defeat, there is also Chandra's defeat.
So, Chandra's defeat, this is a little bit different than the other one. So, Liliana's defeat and Jace's defeat especially are very closely templated to hate cards we've seen before. Chandra's defeat's a little different. So it's R for an instant. Chandra's defeat deals 5 damage to target red creature or red planeswalker. If that permanent is a Chandra planeswalker, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card.
What do you think?
I think, it's very good. And I think it's going to be very good in similar ways to Liliana's defeat. Obviously, Chandra planeswalkers are less common in larger formats than Liliana planeswalkers. I also think that flavor-wise, this is like a flavor success in that it's dealing 5 damage instead of destroying the planeswalker. But it's also different in that sometimes you're not going to be able to kill the planeswalker because it might have in excess of 5 loyalty. But I mean, obviously, this ability to nug a red creature for 5 for 1 mana is a powerful ability at instant for 1 mana.
Yeah, I think this card's nutter butter, like loopy doopy, fantastic, soupy. Like this is just 1 mana, Dark Betrayal, but for red, right? Like that's already so sick. Yeah, it's not completely Dark Betrayal, but for the most part, you are 98% of the way on Dark Betrayal, a red Dark Betrayal for 1 mana here. Being able to hit in Standard, being able to hit red creatures isn't necessarily the biggest deal. I mean, it's helpful that you can kill, anything from Glorybringer down, but like Chandras are very popular in Standard, and Chandra Flamecaller and Chandra Torch of Defiance both start at the right amount of loyalty for Chandra's defeat to hit. And I think that the possibility of a red aggro deck reemerging is not just high. I think it's an eventuality. I think that as the next 2 years go on, it would be really surprising if there wasn't a fast red aggro deck pretty soon, you know?
I agree.
And you're always so in the market for 1 mana plays against people like that. And the fact that it also hits Wandering Fumarole and Needlespire, definitely a big deal. I mean, Wandering Fumarole is a very popular one, and it's not the greatest against Nahiri, no question, but sometimes it does some meaningful work there. The looting ability is definitely interesting as well. You know, it's not just that you always could use a little bit of selection, but like it changes the relative value of this card in a deck like, for instance, say Red-Black Madness, right? Like if you just know that your deck already has Fiery Temper in it, or if you just know your deck already has Scrap Heap Scrounger or whatever, right? The fact that Chandra's Defeat opens up another discard, another outlet potentially, because in Standard you're going to kill Chandra's a fair bit. You really are.
I mean, I think in Modern, there are a variety of Chandras that people play, right? A different variety than in Standard, but they play both of the 4-mana Chandras. I guess there's more than 2 4-mana Chandras. So
they mostly play Chandra Torch of Defiance, I think, but that's already something. But it's important to note Chandra's Defeat can also hit Koth of the Hammer, or Saheeli Rai. Doesn't go after Nahiri super well, but it does keep him off of Emrakul for a little while. And the fact that it can hit Goblin Guide or Thundermaw Hellkite, that's interesting. And the fact that it's an instant is also attractive.
Yeah, I was going to make a note of the Thundermaw Hellkite pipe. There's people play a variety of 5 casting cost haste dragons in Modern, right? They play Stormbreath Dragon also. They're large investments in just kind of bulky creatures that are theoretically hard to kill. This kills them very quickly, and they're usually all tapped out when they're doing it.
Yep. So I think Chandra's Defeat is definitely a good one. And that concludes our tour of the defeats.
No, it doesn't. It does not. It does not. There's one more.
Oh, yes. So Nissa's defeat is 2 and a green sorcery. Destroy target forest, green enchantment, or green planeswalker. If that permanent was a Nissa planeswalker, draw a card.
You hate this one? You're just
what do you think? What do you think?
I think that this card is actually, it's different than the others, but I think it's going to be...
That's for sure.
I think it's going to see some play. When was the last time we had...
Of course.
3 casting cost land destruction available? The last time we had that in Standard, there was the Cryoclasm beatdown decks. I granted there were Stomping Ground.
No. Peak Eruption. This one's a lot more like Peak Eruption than Cryoclasm.
I was just saying, like, there was, like, the deck. I can't remember what was the other cryoclasm? They had, like, 2 kinds in their, like,
no, but
teamer
the thing
deck.
is that, that's my point, though, is that Cryoclasm is totally different. This card is much more like Peak Eruption. Peak Eruption only hits 1 color. The fact that Cryoclasm hits 2 colors totally changes the math. Now, when it only hits forest instead of 2, and then instead of 3 damage, you get the additional option of hitting enchantments or planeswalkers, it's actually much, much weaker because, okay, with Cryoclasm, when you can't hit an island, maybe you can still hit a plains. And when you can't hit a plains, maybe you can still hit an island. When you play Nissa's Defeat, when you can hit a green enchantment, you could usually also hit a forest. It's so much more narrow. And in terms of enchantments to be able to hit, green enchantments are not exactly top of the list.
I don't even know which one I would want to hit.
You want to hit Oath of Nissa? One of their Oath of Nissas?
Their legendary enchantment? Of course not. It costs 1 mana.
And a green planeswalker? Like Nissa?
If you really wanted to kill a Nissa, though, you get to draw a card.
Sure.
See, I think that the reason this card might be good is because, I don't know, maybe we'd have to have a really weirdly oblong standard for you to want to do this, but, like, just to keep people off their mana, like, kind of an attrition.
Of course, that's all that. Of course, but that's the thing, is that this card is very much destroy a forest with a little bit of additional options. If you're playing Nissa's Defeat, it's because you're in for 3 mana, Stone Rain only your forest, which fortunately hits a bunch of the dual lands. Yeah, to me, this one is a clear 5th place. But yeah, it could show up. I mean, it's really going to end up coming down to whether or not you want to destroy a forest.
The other 4 are all real good.
Yeah. And this one might be good. I mean, it also depends, right? Like, Nissa, there are some good Nissas, and you might want to destroy them. The thing that I think is more interesting in terms of the implications, however, of Nissa's Defeat is that it puts green in a very weirdly privileged position compared to creatures of the other 4 colors.
Oh.
Every other creature colors, every other color of creature has a self-limiting cap where if red creatures get too good, the red mages prey on each other with Chandra's Defeat. If black creatures get too good, the black mages prey on each other. Even blue mages prey on. It's literally
it's beyond that, Patrick. Let's think about what color you're talking about. Is green? If you like, green's specialty is making different colors of mana, right? Like, there's no reason like you couldn't have like a green creature deck that just used Chandra's Defeat to fight against red creatures. Or Liliana's Defeat. Like, that's just that. I think that's just going to be their thing.
Oh yeah. All I mean is that,
and nobody's killing their Hydra. That's what you're saying.
You know how? No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that, you know how there was once a time where a black creature had a special status because it couldn't be killed by terror?
Yep.
I think the new format, it is possible that green creatures will be the special status because of the fact that all 4 other colors have very powerful self-hating color hosers limiting them, and green creatures don't. It's not just that the green defeat is the weakest, it's also that the green defeat doesn't go after green creatures. It just makes green creature a privileged status, which I think is exciting. And if any color creature should be, it should be green. But I think that's a different dynamic than we're used to.
I like your interpretation a lot.
There is a green creature that that you might have been picking up on wanting to chat about, and that's Pride Sovereign. What do you think about Pride Sovereign, man?
So Pride Sovereign. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just 2 and a. Go ahead. You know.
2 and a green for a creature cat. And it's a 2/2 to start. Pride Sovereign gets +1/+1 for each other cat you control. So we were talking about a pretty hot cat earlier. In addition, it has white tap. So it's a green creature, but it has a white tap ability. Exert Pride Sovereign. Create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. An exerted creature won't untap during your next untap step. So this is the first time we've seen an exert that's not based on attacking, right?
Right.
So, yeah, this card's like kind of like Imperious Perfect, but for cats.
Well, sort of, but it does some pretty important things, like the fact that the tokens it's making each have lifelink. That's very relevant, particularly if you're playing other pump effects like, say, Felidar Sovereign, or not Sovereign, but the Regal Caracal, I should say. Regal Caracal pumping up cats, or just anything like a Gideon Emblem. I think Gideon Emblem's another totally fine way to pump up cats. But the lifelink from Pride Sovereign, it gives you a lot of value even if they find an answer to the Pride Sovereign. Additionally, you only have to tap the Sovereign one time before you've got 3 cards. With the Perfect, you actually have to spend twice as much mana to make the tokens. Because of, the Sovereign, you're only spending a mana every other turn. Additionally, Pride Sovereign gets bigger, which is typically not as strong as Imperious Perfect's Go Wide approach, but it does open up some avenues of gameplay for you, like having a big enough answer to be able to outclass some particular threat. Additionally, there's a lot more ways to untap than there used to be. Like, there's a variety of interactions that you can take advantage of, like Pride Sovereign with Blessed Alliance, untapping the Pride Sovereign, surprising them in combat, eating something for free, and then exerting and making 2 more tokens by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of surprising someone in combat, just imagine you have like a 3/3 creature, right, and you're attacking into a Pride Sovereign, probably early on. Like, he can become a 4/4 instantaneously and eat your 3/3. Right.
I mean, the untap ability can also lead to being exploiting the Sovereign in a variety of ways, like Kiora Crashing Wave, or the Paradox Engine. If you start Paradox Engineing, you don't even have to go infinite. You just do a couple things, and you have such an overwhelmingly large number of cats already.
So one of the things that I think is subtle about Pride Sovereign is that, and I think that there's probably going to be like a cat beatdown deck that has some of these cards in it, is that Pride Sovereign is very often going to naturally be able to just crew a Heart of Kirin, because even though he has printed text of 2/2, as long as you had any cats before him, he can just drop and go Heart of Kirin. And I think that there's the 3/1 cat for 2 mana from the last set, right?
Right.
So
there's also the double striking cat here.
Oh yeah, the double striking cat is going to be boss. But I think that, like, almost
I don't know that you need Heart. I just don't know that you need Heart of Kirin.
Yeah.
Maybe you just want it because it's so good.
But the thing is, like, Heart of Kirin hits so hard, and it doesn't get your guys in trouble.
Sacred Cat, man, that's another cat.
It is.
So I think Pride Sovereign looks sweet, although I do think that for Pride Sovereign to be good, you have to be actually doing it.
I mean, you got to be like, 20 plus cats in your deck.
Right, you have to be like doing it for real to really. But the other way you could be doing it, maybe you're just a cat deck and it's great there, but I really think this card, the more important thing is actually the untapping part. If you've got good ways to untap the Pride Sovereign, you don't need any other cats. You could just Sovereign and start going hard with that,
Actually, that might make Pride Sovereign an interesting sideboard card for, creature poor control decks, right? Where this is like they tap out for it on turn 3. The opponent doesn't have creature removal spells, and then it's just their game.
Maybe. I really think you got to be built around untapping the Sovereign to take advantage of it. If you wanna use it even as part of a transformation thing, you have to really already have some untap mechanism, whether it's coming from a planeswalker or an artifact or something. You know, it's yeah. I think too much of the power comes from so much of the power comes from the exert ability that I think cheating that is that's where the real money is. What do you think of Ramenup Excavator? No, I guess we talked about that guy last week, didn't we?
Well, except for the episode never went up.
Oh, brutal. Okay, well, what do you think about Ramenup Excavator again?
So, Ramenup Excavator is 2 and a G for a 2/3 Naga Cleric. And it has the ability, you may play land cards from your graveyard. So, this card is, I think, pretty cool. It's got a body that's built for not looking immediately away, and it's pretty easy, I think, to net some card advantage with it. Like if you just play it with Evolving Wilds, you can just play a Ramenup Excavator when you have Evolving Wilds in your graveyard, and then immediately get some card advantage out of it. I think it will be played.
Yeah, the fact that it's a green creature also is relevant. I mean, obviously, green takes advantage of its creatures with everything from like Core to Calling, and in Modern to in Collected Company, versus whether they print more stuff like Summoner's Pact. There's always stuff going on where you might be able to take advantage of it, both being green and being a creature. But also, it's another way to kind of build an engine of sorts, like Ramenup Excavator with any fetch land. Now you're just doing it. Like in Standard, even there's Evolving Wild, where you can literally now just have a Thawing Glacier Forever double.
Yep.
And in Modern, being able to fetch over and over and over and over again, there's something, and in particular stuff like Ghost Quarter and Tectonic Edge. Even in even in Legacy, the possibility of wastelanding over and over again, it's like Crucible of Worlds sees play in these powerful formats, in a Crucible of Worlds that can actually beat down
or block
and not get destroyed by all the artifact hate. I think this card is going to be a cross-format niche role player.
Yeah, I like it. I think my mind kind of went to Courser of Krufix on this card, which I know is kind of weird, right? It's only a 2/3 versus Courser of Krufix's body. It doesn't have the life gain ability. It doesn't have the top of the library selection, but they're kind of similar to me in the sense that it has more toughness than power, so maybe it's a good blocker. And it's potentially just a card advantage engine. If you have Ramenup Excavator in concert with something that lets you play 2 lands a turn, that could be really, really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, the ability to use Ramenup Excavator to essentially just have an unlimited amount of land, if only you have the land drops, really change. It's a powerful multiplier in some unusual spots.
Do you think that this is a card that lands in Legacy might be willing to sideboard, for example? Right? Because, nobody...
No.
No?
Yeah. No, Legacy's a very, very powerful format. I don't think this card's got what it takes for the Legacy. It does for Legacy. Sorry, it does for Legacy, but I just don't think that lands the deck itself. I don't think this is specifically a thing for them. It might be, in small amounts, I guess. But it's, I think it's more of a hate bears kind of card. Personally.
Yeah?
Out of the, I guess we've only seen 2 of the new gods so far, and there's only going to be 3 total. But Nico Bolas has brought with him 3 gods that are gold of Grixis colors. You know, like we haven't seen the black blue one yet, but we have seen the Scorpion God and the Locust God. Which one's your favorite?
I think I like the Scorpion God. So the Scorpion God is 3 black red for a 6/5 legendary creature god, and it has the abilities: whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, draw a card, and 1 black red, put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature. You can do this as much as you want, as long as you have the mana for it. When the Scorpion God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So this guy is like an engine, another kind of engine, and another kind of engine, and a 6/5 for 5, which, as far as I could tell, doesn't have a lot of restrictions about devotion or cards in hand or anything like that.
Nico Bolas doesn't play that.
Yeah, this is just like a sweet creature, right?
Well, the god part comes from never dying. Yeah, this god doesn't require worshippers.
In fact, he just mows the worshippers down. He's like a machine gun that's like a refilling machine gun, you know?
Oh, yeah. Hour of Devastation is aptly named. But I think the Scorpion God is very exciting. If we just start from 6/5 dies to your hand, I mean, compare that to Weatherseed Treefolk. Right? Like, Weatherseed Treefolk was a far more restrictive 2GGG for a 5/3 trampler. This is a 6/5. It doesn't trample, but it's a 6/5. And it's easier to cast. And it also has 2 other abilities.
Yeah, so, like, that ability is dumb, right? Like, it costs 5 to play him. Theoretically, you could play a land, and then you have 6. You could just... I'm reading this right? Like, if your opponent has, like, 2 Llanowar Elves, I'm just saying Llanowar Elves, whatever, so, like, 2, 1 toughness creatures, you just go, like, 3 and 3, kill them both, draw 2 cards. That's what happens, right?
True.
Yeah, like... And it's like... You don't have to kill the stuff, right? Like, if your opponent's got, like, a 5/5, you could just, like, knock it down to 3/3. It's a thing you can do and make it kind of useless over time. There's a lot of just play here.
You can just put a -1/-1 counter on their 5/5 and then kill it with a Grasp of Darkness and draw a card.
Oh, I like it.
Additionally, the Scorpion God, and this is very important to note, the Scorpion God says whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, draw a card. So it can be your creatures. Like, you know those cards from Amonkhet that put -1/-1 counters on your creatures?
Sure.
Your own creatures? Yeah, if you just use them to kill your, Dread Wanderer or whatever, right? Or even just themselves, like you just stack enough -1/-1 counters on the same creature, you get a card each time you pull off that little trick. Like you can it doesn't say non-token, so like you could have that black enchantment from the previous set, Nest of Scarabs. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create that many 1/1 black insect creature tokens. So if you have Nest of Scarabs in play, you can just put a -1/-1 counter on anything your opponent has, and you'll get a 1/1. And if you want, or if your opponent just isn't cooperating, you can keep putting -1/-1 counters on your own Scarabs, drawing cards. Because each time you kill one of your Scarabs, you'll get another Scarab and you'll draw a card.
So that's a really important point. It says, whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, draw a card, not when it goes to the graveyard. Right? So you don't need to be doing this to cardboard, right? You can just like you said, if you just have a source of token creatures, it can become an engine as well.
Now you... let me see. With Soulscar Mage, you can turn all your burn spells into cantrip burn spells. You know? And Soulscar Mage works with the Nest of Scarabs anyway. I don't know, man. I think this card seems really appealing. I mean, it has an ability to take over games in sort of almost like this Crovax sort of way. You know, like it's kind of a thrashing Wumpus, but it's also unkillable. So it's like kind of a Keranos. But the fact that it splits the advantage up too, like it's drawing cards, killing creatures, killing the opponent. So like it's like hard to kill with removal. I think the Scorpion God seems very attractive.
So,
you know?
Well, yeah, one of the things that I think is going to be an artifact of banning Aetherworks Marvel is that you'll have time to take advantage of the Scorpion God's third ability much more often because the games are not going to be immediately over. In fact, he's very good against rush creatures sometimes, right? Like, so he's a 6/5, so if they've got these, 3/1 creatures or whatever, he can block them. And you kind of slow them down. And if you get to untap with them, you can like mow down 3/1 creatures, 1/1 creatures. And if they kill him, it's not like when there's an Ulamog coming down that you're automatically dead the next turn. If you got shocks or pushes or whatnot, you can live to fight another Scorpion God.
Now it's interesting the little setup they're doing. If you get the Scorpion God and the Locust God in play at the same time, so Locust God is 4 blue-red for a 4/4 flyer. Whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. And then 2 blue-red, draw a card, then discard a card. And then it has the same clause of when it dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step.
So this card's very Niv Mizzet, right? Like
it's like Niv Mizzet and Moloku had a baby.
Yeah.
And it has spider wings or locust wings. Spiders, I don't know about their
spiders
wings,
have legs, not wings, yeah.
So the Locust God is a not just a source of card advantage each turn. Like straight up, it's kind of doing this Moloku thing, right? Where you're putting it down as a 4/4 flyer that dies to your hand, which is already like the Shivan Phoenix of sorts. Remember or Bogarden Phoenix. Remember that 3/4 flyer? Yeah, it was Shivan Phoenix. The 3/4 flyer for 6 that dies to your hand. People would play that some. This is a 4/4, so it's already better than that. And then the fact that every turn you draw a card, you get a 1/1 flying haste creature. That's like that makes it hit for 5 the first turn, 6 the next turn. So it's got kind of a Moloku thing going on already.
That's if you're doing nothing, right? Like,
right.
If you just like have the Locust God and you cast a pull draws cards, right? It doesn't put cards into your hand.
Yeah, pull draws.
You can just pull and then just attack them for a ton. Every Glimmer of Genius, every pull, every bulk card advantage stuff. Like if you have a card that's just like draw 4 cards, draw 3 cards, draw 5 cards, like that is creating annoying bursts of offense or potentially defense, right? Like this card is so fast. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like it's a 6 casting cost 4/4, but the second you have access to one of these card drawing, like legitimate bulk card drawing spells, your advantage becomes overwhelming.
And even if you don't have access to one of those, the fact that you can also loot to try to find some action, meanwhile getting a second token immediately or getting an extra token every turn, that's a whole thing. But it's kind of interesting that if the Locust God is in play and the Scorpion God is in play, you can put a -1/-1 counter on one of your creatures, like, say, I don't know, an insect, and then you can, because that insect is dying, you'll draw a card, and then when you draw a card, you'll get another insect. So if the black-blue god has some condition by which you end up getting to put -1/-1 counters on a creature whenever a condition happens, like for instance, if it said whenever you draw a card, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature, or if it said whenever a creature dies, put a -1/-1 counter on it, or if it said whenever you get a flyer or whenever you get an insect, because it might be whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a -1/-1 counter on an opponent's creature, and then have an activated ability that lets you make insects. I think that given these two gods, my prediction is that the third god will complete the Trinity, so that if you get all three in play, you get to draw your whole deck and do some dope stuff.
Yeah, drawing your whole deck is in fact itself dope.
Yeah, that's the type of thing Nico Bolas would do. So yeah, I think already we've seen some pretty big stuff, man.
Do you have a little bit for just one more small? It's not even that small, but like so cycle and combo.
By all means.
All right, so
you've got all the time in the world.
A few episodes or a few months back, you were just talking about functional reprints of cards like the cycling, the original cycling cycle from, I want to say, Urza Saga. And we've got like Desert of the Fervent, Desert of the Glorified, Desert of the Indomitable, Desert of the Mindful, Desert of the True now, which are largely functional reprints of that original cycling cycle, but they're all deserts, right? So we've seen some desert interaction in cards like Chef at Monitor, and we have it here. And I was just saying, look, first of all, these cards are probably going to see some play, but then there's also Runamap Hydra, which is 3 and a G for a Snake Hydra with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample for 4 mana. The downside is it's only a 3/3, but it gets +1/+1 as long as you control the desert, and +1/+1 as long as there's a desert in your graveyard. So it's kind of like, Blastodermy, right? It's potentially, it's easy to get a desert in your graveyard, right? If you have cycling, 5/5 for 4 with a ton of abilities. But I don't know. There's all these things are all kind of coming together.
I don't know, man. If you wanted one of these things, why wouldn't you just get into like Woodland Wanderer or something? Woodland Wanderer seems better than this.
Yeah. I don't know. It has a lot of abilities. I think that this guy's going to
Woodland Wanderer has most of those abilities.
Woodland Wanderer demands something of you that this one doesn't. Right?
Yeah, like spending 4 colors of mana, not playing a tap land that you then have to spend 2 mana cycling early on. I don't know, man.
So we're on the same page with regards to Woodland Wanderer versus this.
The Woodland Wanderer is better. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's possible, I guess, but I'm not optimistic about the Hydra. The deserts, however, here's some interesting things about the deserts. Your New Perspectives deck, our So Sick preview card from the last set, has all new meaning, because remember, Chef at Monitor being able to go get deserts means you don't have to play any basics if you don't want to. Like, that's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. I let's just put some thought into it. I hadn't thought about that. I think I would probably still want to play basics, but the fact that you don't have to does change things, because it also changes your ability to just get the cycling going to begin with, right? Like it dramatically reduces your likelihood of just petering out if you have the option to play more cycling lanes.
Yeah, I mean, you would play these. Why wouldn't you play some of these? I mean, like, you were playing, I don't know, man. Like, if you're just playing 3 colors, which I don't know, maybe you don't want to play 3 colors. But, like, if you're playing 3 colors, getting to just have access to more green mana or more blue mana in your cycling deck, or for instance, being able to play a New Perspectives deck that's blue-black, right? Not even necessarily a New Perspectives, more like the Devotion, Faith of the Devoted. If you have Faith of the Devoted in your blue-black deck, one of the bottlenecks before was cycling lands. Now, granted, these are still just worse than, a half-off color cycling duel unless you take care, unless you benefit from the desert status. But we, depending on what all support, so far they've unveiled enough desert callouts that it's at least possible that they'll print some very real desert support besides just Chef and Monitor,
Yep.
Mostly, though, I think these cards are relatively weak, and I would, they're kind of a draft thing, I would guess. That said, Scavenger Grounds is interesting in that it's a hoser card. Tap for a colorless, or 2 and tap, sacrifice a desert, exile all cards from all graveyards. If you're playing Chef at Monitor, you can play 1 Scavenger Ground either in your main deck or in your sideboard, and then use Chef at Monitor to make it so you have 4 Demonic Tutor cantrips for your hate card.
I'm just a little worried that this is a Serpapard.
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Like a Serpapard looks like it should be so good, but in practice you're like, eh?
I mean, the Serpapard shows up. I'm not saying this card is so good. I'm just saying this card is, playable. Like, the fact that you can... Like, for instance, think about how many modern decks have played with a Bojuka Bog and they're not even black.
Yeah, but those decks can typically get the Bojuka Bog with a Knight of the Reliquary at instant speed.
Right. Same with Scavenger Grounds.
Yeah, but the difference is the Bojuka Bog just works, and this have to have 2 mana.
Well, except that the Scavenger Grounds is also an untapped land.
Oh, they could just sit around, right, waiting to work. Okay, I got you.
And not only that, you don't miss your land drop when it's the second land and you played a turn 1 Noble Hierarch and a turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary. The Bojuka Bog is a tap land.
All right, I got you. I think, maybe it's not a Serpapard.
I don't know. Dude, I'm kind of excited about Hour of Revelation, though. Hour of Revelation's the 3 white sorcery, destroy all non-land permanents, and it costs 3 less if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield.
I mean, I'm like the Akroma's Vengeance. I'm like the one person Akroma's Vengeance fan club, right? Like, if there's a legal Akroma's Vengeance, it's in my deck.
Yeah, like, Akroma's Vengeance would be so good right now anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think that the costing 3 less is, the biggest thing in the world for most decks, and triple white is, a thing. But, nowadays, cards cost more than they did when Akroma's Vengeance came out. And there's so many things like Stasis Snare, Spell Queller, Cast Out, and the fact that a lot of people diversify their threats. Think about the Mardu decks, where they have a Heart of Kirin, a Gideon, a bunch of tokens, a Toolcraft Exemplar, and a Clue. Right? Hour of Revelation being a sweeper that also hits all their vehicles, all their artifacts, all their enchantments, all their planeswalkers. That's so different than only having access to Fumigate. And the fact that it can cost less sometimes. Oh, by the way, I do want to note, even at 6, it's still cheaper than the 7 mana Fated Retribution that saw some play. Now, granted, it's a sorcery, not an instant, but it's already a mana cheaper, And the cost 3 less if there's 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield, that can really matter in a token deck, right? Because token decks will sometimes have sweepers like Wrath of God or whatever, even if they have lots of permanents. And one possibility is to combine Hour of Revelation with Selfless Spirit. Another possibility is to combine Hour of Revelation with Archangel Avacyn in the same turn for 8 mana. Another possibility is to just have some tokens and let Hour of Revelation kill 3 of your tokens and 7 of your opponent's permanents.
Another possibility is just to get them, because it's okay. like you said, I can't get, like, this card is, it kills their Heart of Kiran, it kills their guys, it kills their planeswalkers. Getting their clue is just an insult to injury, though. You know, I'm happy to take it. You know, if you were in the market for a Nissa's downfall, Nissa's defeat, it would kill a green enchantment.
So I think it won't kill Force, though.
No, but green enchantments are dead. Dead to death.
Another kind of interesting component of Hour of Revelation, it works well with either Gideon. Both Gideons become indestructible when they turn into creatures.
Sure. And
unlike other planeswalkers, your Gideons will live. And obviously you can do that trick with Fumigate also, but normally when you do the Fumigate Gideon trick, your opponent still has access to some amount of permanents because of planeswalkers or vehicles or whatever else. Hour of Revelation literally gets all their non-land permanents while still letting you keep your Gideon.
Do you think this is going to change kind of some of our card choices in Standard? Like, there were decks, there are decks now that have like 7 cast outs and stasis snares in the main deck, right? Like, those cards are terrible against Hour of Revelation, right?
Oh, yeah, and they keep stacking up.
Yeah.
Well, they're also just stacking up non-land permanents in play for Hour of Revelation to get cheaper eventually.
Yeah, but like, their presence at all is atrocious, right? Like, if I spend 4 mana to cast out your, I don't know, whatever awesome card you have, and then you Hour of Revelation,
Torrential Gearhulk,
kill all my stuff, including my cast out, and I get the Torrential Gearhulk back. I mean, that's just a disaster.
Yeah. No question. So I think Hour of Revelation is very exciting. I think Hour of Revelation points to a possible return of blue-white if they can figure out how to stop an early rush.
But we've got tools, right? Like Gideon's Defeat is
an early rush of black and red creatures.
Oh, well. Now you want everything.
No, just more power.
just ways to stop black and red beatdown creatures. All right, so just tons of awesome stuff from the new set, Hour of Devastation. I think there's like exciting cycles, obviously exciting solo cards like the Gods, just awesome utility cards. So, a card we just, in the secret not published episode, we talked a lot about Abrade. Abrade's one's obviously going to be a bonkers card. It's 1 and a red for an instant. It does 3 damage to target creature or destroys an artifact. Basically exactly what you want, I think, for fighting some of these matchups. So there's like everything that you could want in this set, it looks like, right? Like, the defeats are an awesome cycle. The utility seems awesome. There's like powerful battleship haymakers. There's planeswalkers and legendary creatures, and new mechanics. It's all seems pretty cool to me.
Excited, man. A lot coming at us pretty quickly.
And it's so quickly that, we might have missed an episode last week, but we'll be back tomorrow with our own Hour of Devastation preview card.
No, I wouldn't say we missed an episode. I would say that there's a lost archived episode that hopefully someday the technology will exist to reconstruct so that people can listen to our spoiler takes in, rear view mirror. Like, hey, remember what you guys thought of those cards before they came out, but 3 years ago?
Yes,
the future's weird.
I hope that the technology will appear as well. I'm skeptical that it will be used for that purpose, but that would be a great purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So we're Top Level Podcast. We're Top Level Podcast here on toplevelpodcast.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Patreon. Just shout out to Daniel Magyar from Patreon. Thanks for supporting us, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel.
If you would love to support us on Patreon, which I think you probably would, you can do that. And we're going to keep coming back almost every week. Sorry.
And thanks again to everybody that came up to me at the GP. It was such a blast kicking it with everybody. So many listeners in attendance. I mean, there's so many Magic players in attendance. But, to the 174 people who came up asking about Top Level Podcast and the 2 people who also asked about Michael J. Flores. Dude, there were people there that were sure you were there.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, man, I don't know. I think you might be, I think he's a family man. Sometimes you can't always just go to Vegas at the drop of a hat to play card games.
It was Father's Day. I went to the Museum of the Moving Image this weekend and watched a screening of E.T. On Saturday, I went to the Paley Center and went to Transformers screenings with my kids, and then took my son to a birthday party.
Happy Father's Day.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
I'm just kidding. That sounds delightful. Kind of jealous.
I mean, not me. I kind of wish I went to Vegas, but then I found out that 13-2 might not make top 8, and I was just like, huh.
Dude, you should trade me your kids.
Yeah.
No, your kids are awesome.
I like them.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Hopefully I'll have a voice by then, although unlikely.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play dredge, it's a jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis days. Lost a lot of friends, got left